Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Wednesday, July 5th, 2023. And our top story today, states and the federal government face a $1.3 trillion shortfall due to retirement unpreparedness. And joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Kim Olson is a senior director with the Pew Charitable Trust's Retirement Savings Project. Kim, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Yeah, this is it's always great to talk to the folks at Pew, and you, John Scott, Allison, you guys are doing such great work. And you recently released a white paper that we're going to talk about today, or a position paper, I guess, talking about retirement preparedness and the lack thereof. And it can really strain an economy. And I want to start off by asking, what happens to state and local governments when their citizens can't retire?
This is a really interesting question, and it's definitely why we commissioned that report. So Pew commissioned a report from eConsult Solutions to look at the fiscal impact to state and local, or state and federal budgets when there's insufficient retirement savings. We titled that report "The Cost of Doing Nothing." And the headline for that research really is that over the course of the next 20 years, if we don't do anything, we're going to see a $13.1 trillion increase in social assistance costs at the federal and state level. And 330 billion of that is just in the state costs alone. So this is going to be a huge impact on state and federal budgets. Now, if I can break that down a little bit,
Sure.
I'll note that it kind of comes in with three angles. So the first is that we're in the middle of a demographic shift right now. So we're looking between now and 2040 at the number of elderly Americans will increase by about 50% to just over 81 million. At the same time, we're seeing that the number of working age Americans is contracting. So there's fewer Americans who are working to support that elderly population. And then finally, Americans in general are just under saving. So based on what we're seeing in this report, by the time an American gets to 2040 and is retiring, they're going to be under saving in such a way that they will have a $7,000 gap between where they need to be and where they are. So, this in itself is such a huge issue, and it will be an issue both for taxpayers and for the individuals affected.
Yeah, you bring up some really good points. And I want to start by following up with that. How have state and local governments stepped up? Because you talked about the strain or the eventual strain on government resources. How have they stepped up to curtail this shortfall, what's expected to be a significant shortfall, both to their economy, but also if people have to work longer, that's going to have a strain as well.
Right, that's really true. And what we've seen across the country is that states, as the laboratories of democracy, have been looking at ways that they can fill this gap that's left unfilled from the private sector. So the estimate is about 56 million Americans in the private sector do not have access to retirement savings at their place of employment. And we know that individuals are 15 times more likely to save for retirement if they can do so at work. So 15 states now, we've seen legislation pass to create programs that we call them automated savings programs. They also are called auto IRAs or secure choice or work and save. But just the crux of it is that if you're a private sector employer who does not offer any kind of retirement benefit to your employees, you would facilitate the state program and create a payroll deduction IRA for those employees. This is a public-private partnership between the state government and a private program administrator, but it just basically allows us to fill this access gap and make sure that everyone has a floor, like a basic way to save for retirement at their place of employment. And so, when we look at this, I think the good news is, from our report about the cost of doing nothing, the estimate was that if individuals would save $140 per month for the next 30 years, they would be able to fill that $7,000 gap and not need to be on social assistance in their old age. But what we're seeing with state programs is that on average, people are saving right now between $130 and $170 a month. So if we can get one of these programs in every state across the country, we may be able to just mitigate or completely eliminate that $330 billion that we were going to see in social assistance costs going up over to 2040.
Well, Kim, as a follow-up to that, offering a retirement program and offering retirement benefits, that's really important to a lot of employees, and it really helps attract employees to employers. But I want to ask, are we seeing enough from the U.S. private sector retirement system, or do we need to see more?
That's a really good question. And what we're seeing is that the retirement system at large is doing what it's always done, which is to serve a certain segment of society and perhaps underserve others. So these state programs are really there to make sure that there's a basic floor, that everyone has access to saving, and that we're looking towards a system where employers can maybe start from a state program and then work their way up, get a 401k, get a 403b, and have a more robust benefit in the future, but knowing that that's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah. Well, Kim, it's, as you said, it's a public-private partnership. There's always work to be done. We're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll get an update on state-run and state-facilitated programs. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're joined this morning by Kim Olson, Senior Director of the Pew Charitable Trust's Retirement Savings Project. Kim, thanks so much for staying with us. Really appreciate you hanging around for segment number 2.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is fun. So, Kim, let's shift gears a little bit. You mentioned in the first segment, 15 states have really stepped up and created state-run programs. But I want to talk more about employers. How does an employer set up a state savings program? There's got to be a process behind that.
These programs are set up to be extremely simple for the employer. That's the whole point. So employers really only have a very minimal role. The first thing they do is register for the program online. Then they upload their employee census, which is just basically the employee information that they have. And then they wait to see what happens. So the program administrator is going to automatically enroll employees into accounts unless they opt out. That information gets back to the employer, and then they just run payroll. So they're just doing payroll deductions the same way they would for FICA or any other normal payroll deduction. Other than that, the employer is not a plan sponsor. They are not a fiduciary. The state is taking on that role. So the employer has very minimal responsibilities, and the state is taking on many of the responsibilities that would normally happen if the employer had been sponsoring a plan.
So it's really easy to do. And you mentioned that there are already 15 states that have passed legislation, created programs. I have to ask you, what about the remaining states? I mean, I know that the U.S. is the states are the laboratory of democracy, and they generally kind of pull from each other, right? So where do the other states stand?
Well, we do see legislation in a number of other states. We saw it during this recent legislative session, and there are still some legislative sessions ongoing that have active bills. We have seen a couple of other versions of retirement savings legislation or programs. In Massachusetts, there is what's called the CORE plan, which is a multiple employer plan, or MEP, but that's just for small nonprofits. And then in Washington state, there is a marketplace, which is basically a state facilitated website that tells you which private providers have retirement savings plans. But what we've seen in both of these cases, they're just not as good as having an automatic enrollment IRA program, because we're not picking up everyone across the board. We're asking people to voluntarily come into the programs as employers, and then you're not doing the automatic enrollment of employees in either case.
Well, it sounds like things are moving very positively in some of these other states, and I know that when we speak to you and your colleagues in future episodes, there'll be even more updates there. But Kim, I want to end with, this isn't just a state concern, because this is a U.S. concern. And I want to ask you about the Secure Act. And I don't know if you heard of the act, but just kidding. I know you've heard of the act. It's got 90 plus provisions. What about federal tax credits? Could that be a big stimulant for offering a retirement program and creating more savings?
Sure, and I think you're referring to Secure 2.0, because there was Secure 1, which is like the Secure Act, and now there's Secure 2.0, which was passed last December. And yes, there are 90 plus provisions in there, and I think many people are working to figure out exactly how all of it's going to work. There are tax credits that are there to help small businesses start up new plans, and those are increased from the original Secure Act. So I think those will be helpful to small employers who are interested in starting their own plans. There's also a Savers Match, which took what was originally the Savers Credit and changed it into a refundable tax credit that would go directly into lower income individuals' retirement accounts. So that's also a really exciting provision that will hopefully spur people to save more. But at the same time, I'll note that what I said earlier in the program, which is all of this is voluntary. If it's voluntary for the employer to start a plan, chances are we're not going to get full coverage, and chances are not everyone is going to have the opportunity to save, which is the problem that we're having across the United States and the reason that we have this access gap to begin with.
Yeah, well, that is I think a topic that we're going to have to continue to broach. Kim, great to talk to you. Thanks for all the great work, and we really appreciate you having you on the program this morning. Thanks so much, and we look forward to having you back very soon.
Thank you.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, somebody you think we should talk to, drop us a line, and don't forget, for all the latest curated news and lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content, visit our website, and of course, all of our streaming partners. We're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN AM. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the First Lifestyle and Wellness Network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts. so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.